Warning, this podcast has some swears in it.
I'd rate it PG-13 at most, but let's just be on the safe side and say viewer discretion is advised. Time to raise your blades, heroes.
And check some vibes.
It's the Heroes Blade Vibe Check. You are listening to the Heroes Blade Vibe Check. Once again, it's Cole, and with the lovely Empress Quinn. What's up, Quinn?
What the fuck is up, gamers? We are here again.
It's a slow month for me.
Yeah, not getting a lot of games in, or what?
Out of choice more than anything. To date, I've only got 6 games on the spreadsheet. Which is at an all-time low, probably of all time, until I actually started playing Magic. Mm-hmm. But we'll go over that in checks notes an hour.
Yeah, let's go and get this thing started.
Top of the list. Hey, we're on YouTube now. It just kind of seemed like something that should be done. Not everyone has access to all of the high-quality podcasts through like Spotify and Apple and stuff. So I've just been editing the episode fussily. I get a 1920 by 1080p image, and I just basically take the cover art, put Heroes Blade blurry in the background, and slap the music on, and then hit render on DaVinci Resolve, and then I just upload that.
Hell yeah, that's exactly enough effort for what we need.
So, outside of some specific episode stuff, which will be seen, for example, on the episode with Lenny Woolley for episode 6, and episode 9 with the Benoit, there'll be hyper-specific memes and images that pop up on occasion, but other than that, it's going to be very straightforward, because I'm already losing my mind over the YouTube thing right now, so it is what it is. But hey, it's out on YouTube now, so if you if you're just like, throw it up on YouTube, I'll just have it go in the background, there you go, perfect.
Yeah, run those numbers up for me, engage with the content.
Please and thank you. Let's go right into community comments, because there weren't a whole lot this week. We just got 2 right from the top. Hey, Trenton's back again. Thanks a lot, bud. The question on Spotify was, hey, would you like to play Killer Queen on Tabletop Simulator, something that still has not been done yet?
Listen, we'll get there.
We'll find... I'm banking on G3 finally getting all this stuff together and being able to play with us. But, again, probably next month is going to be very likely that happening. Trenton here says, yes, just... in all caps. Let's set that. All caps. Yes, just remind me to finally buy Tabletop Simulator on Steam, because I'm a space case. Don't worry, bud. We'll remind you again to go...
Yeah, we are saluting. Will do.
And we got Claire coming in again, saying, of fucking course, who wouldn't? Cowards. That's who. And this is not a podcast for cowards, only warriors. Correct.
So true.
Very
if you check
true.
My text box, it very clearly states that I'm allowed to block warriors because I'm not a coward.
But yeah, we're combat mages here. We respect the combat hustle, and we are not cowards.
100%.
Anyone who doesn't participate in the combat phase, you're a coward.
All right, let's get into these vibe checks.
Yeah, let's start off with you. What do you got?
I've got Roxanne Starfall Savant, who passes the vibe check. She's a legendary creature cat druid for 3, a red and a green from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. And whenever she enters the battlefield or attacks, you make a tapped colorless artifact token named Meteorite. When Meteorite enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target, and tap to add 1 mana of any color. She also says whenever you tap an artifact token for mana, add 1 mana of any type that artifact token produced. Gamers, what if Inferno Titan could also ramp you?
Yeah,
We still like Inferno Titan, right? That's still cool with the kids.
This feel you're not wrong. This definitely does feel like Inferno Titan-esque. Considering again, we got giant Titan templating. Absolutely love to see that. But it's the fact like it feels like every step of the way, they're like, well, we obviously got to have the meteorite come in tap. But you're like, I think you are forgetting about the other artifacts that you could just tap for things. And yeah, Roxanne is super sweet. Tago loves partnering up with Roxanne and throwing rocks at people while also having meteorites come crashing down and just bashing people. I'm just so happy that they made meteorite tokens.
Yeah, I think that's extremely cool. The callback to the card from forever ago or whatever. Isn't that like a 5 mana?
It's a
rock or some
5
shit?
mana artifact that when it enters, it deals 2 damage.
Yeah, if Homegirl is like on ETB and attack, casually giving you tapped 5 mana artifacts, like look at that.
Yeah, so
I think that's a strong card.
This will be going into a deck idea that is also part of the vibe check here, because I've been playing a bunch of Arena lately. I'm not happy to say that, but it is what it is.
Oh, it's fun.
1v1ing against a Roxanne deck when they throw out like a Parallel Lives or whatever.
Yeah, if there's like token doublers and haste at all, you simply do not get to have a board stay from that point on.
So it was like, oh yeah, this is kind of fucked up. But yeah, going again, because we're always looking at stats. And Trenton, listen, I know you, I hear you, bud. I hear you with your 5/6 coming in. I know, I get it, I hear you. But we're talking about a 7/5 this time, and considering that she's going to be coming in attacking to make you more meteorites, yeah.
Obviously, I want to put the Hero's Blade on her. It's free real estate.
It's pretty good. Also, like, considering she's in red and she has stuff to do with artifacts. I know it says artifact token specifically, but that usually just means subcategory of artifact synergy. Putting in any kind of like artifact in general is just going to do the work. Now, tying into this, because Thunder Junction's still pretty hot right now, Calamity Galloping Inferno passes the vibe check for me this week. As I have found in my Brawl games on Arena, sometimes you can't just throw in a 4/6 with haste without having a bit of extra oomph. So, yeah, Calamity being able to enter for your casual investment of 6 mana, but it's probably not going to be 6 because Mono Red's just got a bunch of stuff now. 4/6, pretty good, but sometimes people just got that bigger power at that mana value, so getting Hero's Blade, becoming a 7/8, a lot more physically resilient, or you just give it Menace or whatever. So, having a Flaming Horse make token copies of the stuff that saddled it, and then sacrificing them at the end step. Surprisingly very good. It is also glitched. It's the mechanic's broken on Arena.
No.
If there is something else that your creatures can attack. So if your opponent has a battle or a planeswalker out, the arena glitches and only makes 1 token copy instead of 2. And I was like, well, I have to lightning bolt or whatever the thing before I attack, because how am I going to get the maximum value? But we make it work. We've been making it work.
Yeah, we do what we can. Goodness.
It's been pretty good lately. Pretty fun. Discount Rionia has been a blast.
I've also been playing my fair share of Arena. Ninjas are real cool gamers, and I like to play them there too. With Alora, the arena-fied version of Allura Mary Thief from D&D, and the like black specialization. It's a pretty effective deck. Like at first I had Gorogor and Satoru, but that I guess puts you in the same queue as Atraxas and Jodas. So
Yeah.
we cropped a color out. We took the free 5/5 out of the command zone, and we're having a lot more like varied experiences now. So that's been pretty cool.
Yeah, I find it, as someone who's like main outlet for any type of Magic has been Commander the last little bit, is the fact that I'm like, all right, Arena, you won me over, and I just play Brawl, and that's it. I'm like, Draft? No way, I don't have enough coins for that. I'm using my coins for all the fake packs of Magic the Gathering cards I'll never hold in my hands, and then I use that to find cards to put into my Brawl decks, and then I play Brawl, and I make more coins, and it's great.
It is a good time.
But more on some of the stuff later.
Yeah, time to get on into that content section. What you up to? Listening to or
Well,
watching?
I was actually going to flip the script, because you got nothing on this goddamn spreadsheet. What the heck is going on?
I have so much in the games section, so the other sections got pared down a little bit to compensate. I did recently read an article from the Am I the Bolus? You know, that column with
Oh yeah.
yeah.
You know, Am I the Bolus? The offshoot articles of Am I the Bullcast? Which, actually, one came before the other, and not just the way I said that. But yeah, Mike Rosa's article over on Commander's Herald, which is always funny. I'll just kind of just interject, because I can imagine what the article's about. But there was, I can't remember if it was last episode or the episode before that. I think it was the prior episode from the other week, where Mike just, like, descended into just being, like, a blistering, angry mess. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? What is this? I freaking hate these people. And the other two are like, whoa, oh my god, all right.
What an incredible rant.
Oh, just, I think there's been, because, obviously we're Twitter babies. We do be hanging out and seeing the posting and the wild takes and the discourse that we will not be talking about. But there has been a discussion of, like, hey, why don't we have heels in the community? Or why don't we have, like, the big mouth people? And I'm like, well, I don't know about you, but I do love talking absolute mad shit in a Commander game. So, like, the people exist. You just gotta find them, And yeah, just it's been fun. For the most part, it's been fun listening to people talk mad shit to each other and call out blood feuds and all that other stuff. I think, was it recent? I can't remember. Benoit did or said something recently, and it was like, "Shout out to you, Lenny," or whatever. And I'm like, what is happening? What's going on? I don't know, but
Yeah, there was a thing that's like analyzing your Twitter feed and seeing what kind of information that it
oh
can say
yeah,
about
that's
you.
right. Yeah. You're in a contentious relationship with Lenny. It's like, wait a
Yeah, it
minute.
was just like calling out specifically his blood feud with Lenny
Friend-
as a relationship,
friend-
which, like, yeah, that's a relationship of sorts.
Enemies to lovers speedrun on Twitter. You may be more likely than you think.
Lamau.
But yeah, the general thing for me, at least this week, has just been a bunch of podcasts. I heard you and Lenny's contribution over on the Legendary Creature podcast. I think the last episode, when it came to just the 99 review of Thunder Junction, which, like, yeah, there's a lot of really sick cards in that set.
I always really like the other 99 episodes because you do get to, like, see the stuff that you might have, like, overlooked during the set, or see other people's, like, applications for cards from angles that maybe you weren't considering. And all of that's just like, oh, that's a nice thought. We'll maybe add that one to the wish list, or add that to cart.
Did you even think? What was the line? Like, what was the... Do you even care?
Oh, yeah. Do you care?
do you fucking care? It's like, yeah. I also just love their reactions. Like, they've been a new recent favorite of mine, and I'm like, I'm just so sad, or at least not aware that they're anywhere on social media. Which, for their, that's probably also good for them too, but sometimes I just want to be like, I can't remember which host it was, who's just like, yeah. Anyway, what's the next card? I'm like, no, we gotta go back and talk about it. What the hell?
Oh, yeah, sometimes they're like that, and it's very funny for me.
Oh, no, I've been laughing a lot listening to their episodes and catching up. Yeah, I'm at the Bullcast, Harold's Horn, the Howling Salt Mine has been a good one recently. Mm-hmm. As it seems like the co like they brought in some extra people every once in a while because some people can't make it recently, and it's just been a good entertaining change of pace.
And flavor profiles with Nat and Matt. That's always a good time.
Mm-hmm. Nat's got her new microphone up in the last little bit.
Yeah, it sounds great. Good for her.
And then speaking of podcasts, the episode of Brewer's Choice, is what the subtitle is, over on Brewer to Screw It, is anticipated to come out next week, far ahead of schedule, that I did with them I want to say it's about a month ago, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I got to chat with Cody and Laz, the co-hosts of Brewer to Screw It. As Cody put it earlier on the socials, that I called Laz out on his horrendous takes, and you'll be listening. That'll be the very first thing that you'll notice, is I immediately call him out as soon as the episode starts, and it's freaking hilarious. Yeah, and maybe I'm telling on Cody a little bit here, where he's like, "Hey, bud, do you want your episode? We might be putting your episode out early." I'm like, "Oh, I thought it was going to be in June." He's like, "Yeah, I can't do any recording right now because I pulled a muscle in my mouth." And I'm like, all right, how do you do that? And then I think about like the end of Toy Story 2, where they kind of do pretend like blooper outtakes, like they animate these blooper outtakes as if like they were actual actors. Mm-hmm. And Barbie's like, "Okay, everyone, bye-bye. See you. Thanks for watching the video. Haha." And then she drops. She's like, "Oh my god, my cheeks are killing me from smiling so much. This is..." Oh, and then I'm like, yeah, you know what?
I remember seeing that and just fucking died. I think I was like crying laughing.
Those outtakes, the outtakes that they did for Toy Story 2 were so good. Like whenever Buzz Lightyear was, he flipped up his mask and there was like a monocle and like a very curly mustache, and he's like, "Woody," and then his wings pop out, and at the end when he's like, when Jessie introduced herself, and it was like, I can't remember what was written, like, I don't know, I can't remember that part. I just know he wrote something, and every time it's just Woody, or like, yeah, no, Toy Story 2 bloopers were just great. It's a good memory. Anyway, Brewer to Screw It episode out next week. It'll be a good time. It'll be super long, too. What do you expect from us?
Of course, it's, we out here running our fucking mouths. We got shit to say.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so, decks and games. We're getting into it?
Oh, yeah, we're getting into it pretty much right away.
Fuck yeah. Dive on in. Do you want to go first?
Well, I think maybe we can get this one out of the way. Because this was one where I was like, maybe we can use some episodes and sometimes to talk about some serious subjects. And it's like, this isn't like necessarily too serious, but it's something that I'm like, this is pretty interesting for me. Mm-hmm. So one of the reasons I had only 6 games this month, and 5 of those games were a couple Sundays ago with some friends of mine at my local game store. We typically get together on Sundays. Now, my buddy of mine reached out to me and just sent me a message of like, "Hey, so I don't know about you, but I've been noticing the last few Sundays that we've been going out, you've been super salty." And I'm like, oh no. Because it wasn't just like a tiny message. It was like a freaking paragraph. It was like an essay. It was like, oh shit, what have I done? Mm-hmm. And I guess what's been going on is that I've been pretty grumpy when I go to these games, and I don't know what it is exactly. But he's like, you kind of throw your cards down, and you huff, and you're like, you profusely swear, and I'm like, well, the profusely swearing part is pretty normal, but the slamming my cards down, or maybe hitting the table, or like at least slamming my hand down on the table, I guess it's been a pretty semi-consistent thing from at least what he's seen. And I'm like, oh my god, and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, is this something I normally do? Because, like, I am one who is not immune in getting salty. In general, I do, like, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm a pretty casual, easygoing guy, and not that, like, necessarily anything was bugging me. And then I'm like, but hold on a minute. I check in with some other people. I'm like, okay, am I, like, aggressive in some way? And some people were like, I say some people as if other people were going to contradict that. But no, some people were like, no, like, you seem pretty tame. You probably do get salty sometimes, and I think that's pretty fair. Some of the people are like, considering our group dynamic with some people, like, there's some new people coming back in, and we answer, like, rules questions all the time. They're like, no, actually, you're pretty, like, easygoing and accommodating. So then I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this group? I'm thinking, like, maybe it's a pod dynamic issue. Maybe it's, like, rule 0 isn't really working. Or maybe I'm, like, kind of, like, setting myself up for failure or something. I'm not sure. And it's going to be a couple Sundays before I figure that out and answer, because this upcoming week's pretty busy. And then I go on vacation. And then, so it's, like, 2 Sundays down, not going to be showing up. So I have no idea, like, really what's going on. And, like, they play, like, that group of people that show up, it's a pretty diverse group of people, and they show up with some pretty powerful stuff. And it was just, like, I don't know what it was, either that particular Sunday was pretty bad, admittedly. Like, I was really bad. And I didn't know if it was, like, I was tired from, like, the day before, or, like, I showed up, like, I tend to burn out pretty quick, like, halfway through games. So, like, I don't know. It's a complicated thing. I'm not sure what's going on. I wanted to bring it up because it's like it's the fact that someone actually reached out to me and was like, hey, is something going on? And I have to sit there and have, like, this huge, like, existential crisis moment of, like, am I having issues with magic? And then I check in with other people, and they're like, no. And I'm like, yes, the other people are right. But probably there's still something to look into and consider here.
I think if they took the time to send you that message, they obviously, like, see that there's a thing that they felt that needed to be brought up, because, like you mentioned, it was, like, a lengthy message. So obviously, like, you gotta care pretty deeply about you as a person to want to, like, maintain this relationship and even have this conversation at all, instead of just, like, dipping out, but yeah, I think them actually, like, reaching out to maybe, like, solve this issue is enough of an indicator that it's worth looking at. A really important thing that I've noticed, actually, is to make sure that you're, like, fed and hydrated when you're gaming. The fucking Snickers commercials from forever ago made it a really funny bit, but, like, dead ass serious, you're not you when you're hungry.
Yeah, like, I make sure that, like, I eat something before I go, so sometimes I'm like, well, like, is that it? Like, but I make sure I at least eat something before I head out. But yeah, I don't know, again, I feel like this is something that I'm going to need to kind of, like, examine every step, just to see, like, what am I doing beforehand? What did and it's, like, it's the weekend. Like, I'm usually taking it pretty easy. But, like, who knows? Maybe I do something on, I don't know. I guess also the other thing, too, is, like, the last few Saturdays have been fairly busy to me. So maybe that might be a contributing thing of, like, you're trying to relax, but you double down on 2 days, and then you show up on the Monday for work, and you're just like, I had too much fun. I've ruined it for myself.
And you're just like, I have done entirely more or too much social interaction for the amount of time that I needed to be, like, resting.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing is a Like, it can impact your mood and the way that you interact with people more than you realize.
So, yeah, just felt like it was something to bring up, just because, like, it was so... I mean, it was pretty thoughtful. Like, he is a good, he's a good friend of mine, and it was like, damn, this must be a lot more serious than I'm even consciously, like, aware of. And then it's just like, yeah, I'm a little paranoid, admittedly, of just being like, how bad is it? I don't know. And then I'm like, am I really like this in general? And it's like, I'm probably, hopefully not, but I'll do some research and get back to y'all in, like, a month.
Hell yeah. Sounds good.
What is up with you in terms of games this week?
So I played the Sultai Gonti Precon a couple of times. The first time I played it was, my opponent cast a knowledge pool, and I don't know if you know anything about that, card gamers, but when someone puts a knowledge pool into play, it kind of doesn't matter what you're playing. This is now a knowledge pool game. And so I said, okay, this is now a knowledge pool game, and we're gonna not include this as a like test of what that deck is actually capable of. Let's get that card pulled up here.
All right, so knowledge pool is a 6-mana artifact. It's from Mirrored and Besieged, hilariously. I don't know how that's hilarious. I'm just like, oh, neat. I can see that symbol. I recognize it. It has Imprint. When it enters the battlefield, each player exiles the top 3 cards of their library. And whenever a player casts a spell from their hand, they exile it. If they do, they may cast another non-land card exiled with Knowledge Pool without paying that card's mana cost.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, that kind of card is the card that does things to games, and I was already playing like your cards deck, so I've got the like Narset 2 that I cast off of the mono black Nashi from, like, I stole the Narset from somebody else's deck. Knowledge Pool on the stack, Gamer on Mangara with the exile target permanent button decides to exile target Narset, and there's like knowledge pool is on the stack, so you could be exiling that. And I was just like, there's a speech bubble above my head with like 5 question marks in it, but the pool resolves uninterrupted. We all exile our cards, and then we commence the 4-color Aragorn deck cooking just so much fucking hotter than anybody else was capable of, but we're all still trying to capitalize on the pool.
Was this Mr. the Benoit on the Aragorn train?
Yes, it was indeed the Benoit.
I love how Twitter, how out of context tweets from friends manage to somehow completely collide and converge on this spreadsheet. It's like, hey, what's on the docket? Benoit. Why? Knowledge pool. Why? This. I understand now. Sherlock Holmes this shit.
About knowledge pool because of this game that we had. So he's getting like double the cast triggers on basically all of the spells that he's casting, because he's just like, I'm going to cast these anyway. These are the best spells that are available to me. So I'm casting this thing.
May or may not be multicolor.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, I'm casting this thing, we'll put it in the pool. I'll cast this other thing that I put in the pool previously and get those triggers off of Aragorn. I'll cast another thing, and then that first thing that we put in the pool, we'll cast that and get all those cast triggers. And I'm just like, this is like a cast harmonicon for you, basically. That said, I had a Ghostly Pilferer that was also taking advantage of this because they're casting all of these spells from outside of their hand. So I'm going to draw cards on all of those. One of the gamers who was on Vega the Watcher stole my Arcane Heist, which is like a cipher spell that lets you cast an instant or sorcery from an opponent's graveyard. So we're just like doing maximum casting of spells from outside of your hand. I'm getting a bunch of card advantage, and they decided that was a thing that needed to stop, so they blew that up.
You can't have shit.
Truly cannot have shit around here. But they do the same thing basically with Vega the Watcher when they cast their Arcane Heist off of Cypher, and then again when they cast their spell from the opponent's graveyard with Arcane Heist, and whatever they cast from the Knowledge Pool is also drawing them cards. But it's a 2-mana commander, so you blow that up and they cast
Replay it again, yeah.
And it's like not even their whole turn at that point in the game because they had Knowledge Pool mana, obviously. So it's just like, here's this 4 mana, and then I'll cast another 4 mana spell to keep it pushing.
It really doesn't take much. The increase of just like casual 2 mana legends, like regardless of their quality, has like gone up through the roof. I want to say like even within like the last 2 to 3 years, and they just keep making more. And it's like, stop doing this! It's so good!
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is what it is. The other thing to gain from this whole experience is that Aragorn the Uniter is a fucked up magic card, and it really doesn't take much for it to pop off. It
truly was showcased extremely well in that game. They ended up winning BT Dubs. They got twice as much value out of the Knowledge Pool than everybody else did. But in that game, we're all just like, hang on, does Knowledge Pool kind of whip though?
Oh, don't you even start.
Personally, I was thinking, hang on, all of these spells are being exiled and then they're being cast.
Why don't you just cast Possibility Storm then? Jeez.
Well, yeah, that was also a thought that I had. Like, I could just put Knowledge Pool and Possibility Storm in the War Doctor, and it would go so hard. I wouldn't even need the, like, TARDIS giving a 1-drop spell Cascade to, like,
yeah.
Choose. So that was a thing that we thought. Also, extremely funny note, everybody had removal for the Knowledge Pool.
Using that's hilarious.
On the Knowledge Pool? Not a fucking question. Just not even doing it.
Oh my god. So just to reconfirm, Magic players actually do play removal.
Yeah, we play removal. It's just none of us decided that the Knowledge Pool needed to go, and it was literally there from the time that it was cast until the end of that game.
Sometimes we like chaos as a treat, you know? Like, we like to let's throw all traditional convention of this multiplayer format out the window and just, you know, Descent into Avernus or Knowledge Pool or whatever other unique effect that affects everyone equally.
Mm-hmm. We like a little chaos, but as a treat. For morale purposes.
Yes, you know, add some brevity, you know, to...
No, it's not brevity. That extends the game at all. I think you mean like levity.
Yes. I know.
Yeah.
I know the English language.
It's hard, is the thing.
Yeah. You just reminded me. Someone at this is a complete random tangent because that's what we're here to do. Mm-hmm. I have a coworker who just sits across from me in my new desk. And she's been playing the game Outer Worlds recently. Mm-hmm. And it's basically like if you take Fallout and put it in space, it was still made by Obsidian. And in traditional sort of like old Fallout style, the lower your intelligence is, your character's responses changes accordingly if you hit like 1 intelligence. Mm-hmm. They're like, "Mwah." So they managed to... there was a much smarter character talking about it's like, they said indenture in the middle of combat, or in the middle of a conversation, and your character latches onto the person saying denture and says, what does this have to do with the person's teeth? And I'm like, wait a frickin' minute. So they're dumb enough to respond to that, but they're still smart enough to know that denture has to do with teeth. Like, sometimes I find it funny about when it comes to, like, low intelligence writing, when it comes to, like, video games and stuff, of, like, so they have a foundation of something, but then it just goes full circle back into being stupid. Anyway.
I have not played enough of, like, that kind of Fallout to know exactly what that
Well, you can do it in New Vegas
like.
if you go back and play.
I'd have to finish the campaign that I'm currently on, which is the like EQ power fantasy.
Yeah. But yeah, jeez. I need to bust out my Aragorn deck again.
You have one of those?
Oh, it's tucked away, but it is like a budget gates, and it's like a Maze's End and Charms deck. So I think eventually or soon enough I'm gonna have a Spelunking to put it in there, but the mana base is literally mostly gates with a Maze's End, and like pretty much every single, like anything that wasn't from the Lord of the Rings set is a charm some way, shape, or form, and it's just about casting charms. And yeah, it does work, especially when you like cast several green spells in a row and make Aragorn a large and just smack people in the face.
Yeah, that card has multiple ways on it to just like kill people. So,
I remember when Kurotsuki was like, why don't you just make a mono green one? And I'm like, you just cast like giant growths and stuff? Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Cast giant growth plus
that
7.
deck, basically. Sean Vile Smashed had Aragorn like Fight Club deck. That was just like a lot of green pump spells, so you get the cast trigger that makes him large, and then you fight, and you win that fight, obviously, because +4/+4 is massive.
That's awesome. That's actually super cool.
Yeah, when all of the pieces came together, it was very effective.
Yeah, I gotta bust out that deck again soon. That's awesome.
What you got for us?
I'm gonna do another pod, like one of my commander pods. Like, it's okay. So I got a question for you. Is Kodama of the East Tree a tiny wee lad?
Great question. Which one is that?
So that is the partner one.
Okay, the 6 mana 6/6.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a no for me. A tiny wee lad has to be tiny in the art, in the mana value, or maybe in the stats. And it is tiny in none of those things.
All right. So the reason that I bring this up is twofold. One of them is because Valerie Fatality has been talking about big, stinky magic cards.
Oh, yeah.
And
I love this series of posts.
It's like, hey, so I'm calling everyone out that's putting like lands and like two mana or less creatures in this category, because they are not that. So that was step one. I was like, oh, this is hilarious, because I put out Gisela Bladed Gold Knight, and Valerie's like, yeah, that's big and stinky, so good job. I'm like, great. I love participating in this discussion, because so here's the second part, is that part of that Sunday pod, there's one person who went out, and he went to don't mind the alarm in the background. He went to Scotland
Oh, wow.
a few months ago. I think sometime late last year or whatever. And they were checking out, him and his partner were checking out the Magic scene. And I didn't remember what card it was exactly, like whoever was playing, but a person from there came by and said, wow, that's a tiny wee lad, isn't it? And it must have been based off like the artwork, right? And so this buddy of mine was like, all right, it's time to make a tiny wee lad deck. And he's like, so this is my Kodama of the East Tree / couldn't tell you what the other card is. I can't remember what the partner is off the top of my head. He's like, I think it's like Golgari, and he's like, this is my tiny wee lad deck. And I'm immediately like, Dan, what the fuck is that guy right there? He's a 6 mana 6/6. And he just sits there, he's like, but it's just a tiny wee lad. I'm like, no, it is not. And then he proceeds to like cast other big larges or put them into play for free. And I'm like, Dan, you are I don't know how, like this feels sacrilegious somehow. Like, this is like, if we're looking at effects that care about either mana value or power and toughness. The quotient or the dividing line is either 3 or 4. So pick your line, and that is your tiny wee lad line in the sand. You're way over the line.
No, actually, now that you've given me this context.
No, don't you frickin' do this to me.
I think it's an extremely funny bit to be like, this is my tiny wee lad's deck, and they're all 6 6s.
No,
for 6.
you can't listen. You can't. You have your quota of funny, haha,
so
ironic decks with
funny.
Toxrill fairies. You do not get to do this to me. All right, you don't get to flip the script like that. No. I'm not accepting this.
It's too good of a bit.
No, it's not too good of a bit. I'm going to send him this clip once this episode comes out. But no, you're not doing this to me. I can't believe this.
Like everything that cares about ferocious creatures and fucking Goreclaw 1 and 2 and just like all of the creature power 4 or greater.
I'm going to have people come back to me and be like, yeah, this is a tiny wee lad. Why don't you go freaking play tiny?
Path to go find
yeah, you know what?
something else
Kodama
big.
of the East Tree can't be played at tiny leaders. So there you go.
I don't give a fuck. This is my tiny wee lad's deck, and it's all Dreadmaws all the way around.
Oh, jeez. It's terrible. Anyway, so I opened that can of worms here. Here we go. But yeah, I thought it was very interesting how if they're doing it for the bit, it's one thing. It's when they're not doing it for the bit is when I'm worried. And I've just been very worried for a very long time about this. But yeah, it just so happens that, yeah. Valerie's like, oh, Discourse? How about this big, dumb, high-cost magic card that does dumb things? And it's like, oh yeah. And then Eliane is like, what about Iona? And I'm like, okay, you need to calm
That's a big stinky card for sure.
You need to stop. This is that card is banned for a reason.
My contribution to that post-series would probably be the Slug Mother Toxrill the Corrosive, for the record. That's a big stinky card I like.
Yeah. I hate that card so much.
Yeah, that's why she doesn't leave the command zone very often. I don't need to unsheath that blade frequently.
It's like that TikTok where this feels really silly. It's the black guy walking by and then he thinks he hears something and it's a frame cut and it's him in like a trench coat, glasses with a katana, and then he realizes that it's like nothing needs to happen and he just puts the blade away and walks away.
I've never seen that before.
I need to send this to you. I cannot. Okay, well, maybe you're not on TikTok. I don't know. My girlfriend and I are on
really,
TikTok. No, all right. I got to send you that one. I love it so much. It's just is it something culturally insensitive and or a major red flag from a guy, but then the person continues talking and then you realize that it's just not that at all and the people are like, all right, you live this time, motherfucker. You just walk away. I need to find it. I need to send it to you.
All right. What be going on out there? Anyway.
All right, games for you. What's up?
Another experience that I had was we were like, hey, so we got time and energy for games, or how are we doing? And there was like one opponent who was like, all right, I can do one, but we gotta make it snappy.
And you're like,
reaching for Owling Mine, a deck that I also labeled bars closing in 45 minutes. Say no more. So we mulligan to 6, and we're fine because we find Anvil of Bogernon, and in those early draws, we find Descent into Avernus. So we're like, Anvil here on turn 2, and opponent's like, oh no, you've given me too many choices, and me with Descent in my hand. I'm like, it's gonna get worse.
Oh my god, yeah, I'm looking at the list here. I'm like, what are you doing? What have you done?
Oh, just making sure that we all get to bed on time. So we play Descent into Avernus, we play a Teferi's Ageless Insight, and we're farming value, we're putting cards in our opponent's hands, and we're forcing them to make decisions, and so that late game maybe they slip up and make bad decisions because they're all burnt out on decisions. And also we slam that Sheldred the Apocalypse, my Shelly Bean. She's extremely powerful in this setup because opponent is drawing a lot of extra cards per turn and get burned for 6 just in their draw step. So she's stolen immediately, of course, because that's what happens when you play a game warping permanent. Homie hit the Corrupted Consciousness and a Hammer of Nazan on her and found a way to give her... Oh, no, he was playing Dalikos Infect. So giving the Hammer of Nazan to her gave her haste and flying, and I'm just like, well, you know... That's what happens to you. So I get bonked. I'm at 8 poison that turn. I'm sweating. And immediately after that, homie passes the turn and Shelly gets stolen by another opponent on their turn. They've got Fealty to the Realm, an enchantment that enters the battlefield, makes you the monarch, and gives you the control of the enchanted creature as long as you're the monarch. Or rather, it's... the monarch controls the enchanted creature. There we go. So if somebody else takes the monarch from you, then they also get control of that permanent. That person was on the Aowen, like, upgraded precon, so just behind bodies, you're not getting through without some significantly clever evasion.
Right.
So they're really well positioned to hold on to the monarch. Unfortunately, the other thing that happened then is Gamer on the Eisenhorn deck drops a Persuasive Interrogators.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if you'll remember, listener, I was at 8 poison from that Corrupted Consciousness equipped Shelly earlier. So I'm sweating. A singular clue sacrificed can remove me from the game. But the Eisenhorn mage is benefiting from my extra resources despite their blood price, so I gotta just be real cool and not make them feel like they need to crack a clue. And ultimately, we do get very close to lethal burn damage on all of our opponents from that. But the homie on Dalikos Infect swings at me with an Inkmoth Nexus, and it's buffed by 1 to give it the like lethal amount of damage that it needs on me. And he also swings at the homie on Eisenhorn with enough infect to take them out of the game. And so Eisenhorn, before leaving the game as a just so you know I keep that thing on me, they crack that last clue and kill me first.
Yeah, sometimes you just, if you're on the way out, you just gotta do it, you know, gotta send a message.
Yeah, but Dalikos Infect takes it. A pretty fucking creative take on that deck, actually. I haven't thought about that at all.
So Dalikos, this is a card that I have like 4 or 5 copies of for whatever reason. Dalikos Crafter of Wonders is 1 blue and a red for a 2/4 Merfolk Artificer all the way back from Theros Beyond Death. Tap, add 2 colorless, spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts, and equip creatures you control have flying and haste. That it's one of those cards that you're like, what do I do with this equipment? And is it? Nah. And, Dalikos Infect.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Equipment and is it actually makes sense because they do have that like identity of artifice in both red and blue mana, and a lot of equipment, well, not a lot of, all equipment are artifacts, and so the two, they hold hands like that. And then Dalikos is just like, I will give you this mana with which to equip guys, and your guys have evasion on top of whatever you're giving them from the knife that you're giving them. All of that works really well together.
Yeah, maybe I need to re-look at this guy in something else.
He's all-star in the 99 of my Yezri Fortune's Flame deck.
Ooh, yeah, he would. Yeah, he would in that, yeah. I love hearing about... Like, obviously, when you're like, oh yeah, Eisenhorn, I'm like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I love playing Eisenhorn. But hearing the odd commander, like Dalikos and some other stuff like that, show up is really cool to hear. Because it still shows, like... I know I talked about the absolute depth of, like, 280 or 270, whatever legends there were for, like, the first third of the year for me. But it does go to show that people are still burned with some weird weird stuff that like you very rarely see or you normally see in the 99, if at all.
Yeah, all of that
awesome
makes me feel very encouraged that people are still looking at cards like Dalica's and thinking, I will do this cool thing with it. I'm very all ears about it. Commander's so cool.
Commander is very cool, yeah.
All right, what you got for us?
All right, let's actually talk about games instead of dynamics, but that's always a fun time. As I mentioned, I haven't had a whole lot of games this month. That's fine. Whatever. I'll just just talk about whatever. Okay, so I updated my spreadsheet. I cut out a bunch of stuff because it's just been a pain. So in the meantime, I've been using Arena as my Magic outlet because of the lack of games this month, which leads into the one I will be skipping my one thing and talk about it later. We'll go to the next part where I am playing with Ty Joaquin Perfect Shot in Arena. Now, in a 1v1 environment, Ty Joaquin, where you deal exact damage, lethal damage to a creature, and then you draw a card when that creature dies. That's a cool effect. But Ty becomes a control commander in a 1v1 brawl environment if you're able to have like a plethora of like deal 1 damage, deal 5 damage, deal your 4, your 3, and your 2. And most of the time people are playing their commanders at that power and toughness. Their early game stuff, their mid game stuff kind of floats around that. So in 1v1, you can see how kind of like annoying that would be.
I'm gonna keep it 100 with you, even outside of 1v1. That did read Boros Control Commander to me, because her whole point is removal, and I'll reward you with card draw for it. So it's just like it turns all of your 1-for-1 removal spells into card neutral removal.
Yeah. And that's not even getting into if you could convert one spell into a multi-removal thing. Like, finally being able to play, God, what was it? Aurelia's Fury or something?
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
I think Alice was talking about that, trying to brew up Ty with that. But, like, if you can turn, depending on how, like, you activate Ty Joaquin to get that, like, oh, have your effect deal an extra damage, have it deal an extra 2 damage wherever, where you can kind of, like, fine-tune it. But also being able to just say, fuck it, scale it up for as much mana as you got, plus whatever else you're casting, and just fucking annihilate people. It's kind of that like, I wonder where, like, if you can keep that kind of balance between, like, this is annoying as shit, and this is fucking cool, is like, I don't know. I'm sure there's gonna be, it's like, she probably stays in a high tier, like, high power game. She's
Either
also
that
2
or
mana.
just like the kind of area where people are emotionally prepared to be losing a lot of creatures.
Yeah. But I'm like, but what about Inferno Titan, though?
Here you go again, Inferno Titan posting.
Hey, look, if I'm able to activate Ty Joaquin for like 6 mana, and then I turn Inferno Titan sideways and can divide 1 damage to 6 to 3 different targets, I think that's pretty sick.
You
but
would.
Yeah. I
Because
would.
It is.
I would definitely do that. So yeah, whether or not I would make it, like, I got an extra Ty Joaquin sitting around, and I'm wondering if I'll I'll make a deck out of that. But I think I'll let other people do that, and I'll just keep that experience to Brawl.
Yeah, that sounds good. I do like that as a way to test if you're going to enjoy maybe porting an experience from Arena to like 100 card singleton with the full expanded card pool and all of that in paper or whatever.
It's how I learned how Quintorius Field Historian synergizes with Bag of Holding and
Yeah, dude.
like a wheel effect, because Bag of Holding and like Containment Construct cause instances of removing it from your graveyard, and therefore you make that many 3/2 spirits, which was like, oh man, that's fucking sick.
Yeah, that seems extremely strong.
But yeah, so Arena's been good to me lately. It's been fun just to play that on my phone.
Nice.
Shadow Dragon style time?
Yeah, gamers, it's time to fangirl about ninjas again.
And dragons, but mostly ninjas.
Yeah, it's fucking the weeb hour in this part. It's my, like, right as a person of a certain age to have ninjas in my life. We had the whole fucking ninjas versus pirates thing growing up, all sorts of ninja media, and now we have an actual, like, deck with that, and it feels real good to be playing that. It makes me feel very clever. Activating my ninjutsu abilities, returning unblocked attackers to my hand. I also just really like 3-drop Kaido, the planeswalker.
Yeah, Kaido Shizuki, yeah.
He has that +1 ability that lets you draw a card and then discard a card unless you've attacked this turn. His -2 makes an unblockable 1/1 ninja. And then he's got a -6 that lets you... Am I thinking of the same guy?
You get an emblem with whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player. Search your library for a blue or black creature card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle.
Yeah, there we go.
What
That's what it says.
the fuck? What is this?
All right, so the guy encourages combat, and in that deck, I'm swinging every turn anyway.
Swinging.
So, you know I'm going to get in there and activate that ability post-combat. It's basically just a Phyrexian arena for me. And if I have to activate that -1 or the -2 with the unblockable ninja, it sets up ninjutsu really well for me. The fact that the +1 is literally just draw a card, I feel like is really low impact and non-threatening to your opponents, unless you're cold-brained, of course, and have to remove a planeswalker.
Listen, I can't let you have too much fun with these people, because if I do, you get your ultimate, and we just can't have that.
Well, the good news on Kaido is he phases out that first turn, and I really feel like that helps diffuse a large amount of aggro because they can't get to it that first turn after immediately seeing it. And at that point, other threats have had time to develop, and people aren't as focused on that. Of course, now that I've brought this up, it's going to immediately fuck the game up, and it will never work again. But that's what I've experienced previously.
Highly visible ninja.
During one extremely pivotal turn, I I cast Predator's Hour to give my whole team menace. And
yeah. You mentioned this. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
And then we ulted Kaido, so we did the -6, and all of that together is pretty bad fucking news for my opponents. So I go to combat, I connect with 6 creatures, I'm stealing 3 cards from this opponent's library, I'm stealing 3 cards from that opponent's library, and I'm getting 6 creatures out of my deck. So I go and grab the Ninja Queen herself, Yuriko. I go and grab the OG Ninja Queen, Veil of the Nightclad. I get some solid rogues. I feel extremely solid about our position in the game. I really like Predator's Hour. That card is sick as fuck.
Yep. So Predator's Hour, which I'm pretty sure came through the original Crimson Vow Commander, but got reprinted in, imagine
the Gonti precon.
Gonti, yeah. 1 and a black for sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain menace. Alright, I already love this. And then whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of their library face down. You may look at it and play it for as long as it remains exiled, and then you may spend mana as though or mana of any color to cast that spell. Awesome. Fucking sick.
Yeah, I'm such a big fan of Spell Theft, and I think the Spell Theft plus the one-shot evasion effect here is really strong for that 2 mana. You can just cast that and get in with 1 or 2 creatures on somebody and draw 2 cards basically, or your whole board gets evasion and you can go for that alpha strike, and if things get blown up then you still have all of that card advantage that you stole from your opponents, so you're not fully left with nothing to do after overextending. All of that feels really strong. That game unfortunately did not end in a win for me because the gamer on I think Rigo, with the cares about the 1 power creatures, had the fucking Cephalid Face Taker, who is my absolute, my girl, my beloved. I could never truly be mad at her, but she was used to great effect against me in this instance. She became a copy of my Yuriko, and she was a 1/4 that couldn't be blocked, and there was also a mirror entity in that deck. So, opponent was able to just make all of his creatures basically into unblockable ninjas, and then Yuriko triggers just stacked all the fucking way up and burned us all down.
That's magic, baby.
Yeah, you just can't play cards unless you're prepared to die to them, because somebody will try. Predator's Hour, sick as hell.
After I'm pretty sure I remember last episode was a bit of a blur. Did I mention Orochi Soul Reaver last episode? I feel like I did.
Yes, and I think that's what had me particularly fired up to be playing this deck some more, because I was like, right, yes, there's that ninja in the Gonti precon. Let's harvest that precon for parts.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that Gonti, because this is kind of going to another thing of depending on what your scope of what you're looking for when it comes to preview season for Commander or whatever, is that things just slip in the cracks. Cards you don't notice or cards you just don't really pay attention to because it's not exactly what you're looking for at that moment. But yesterday, I could not tell you how this card came across my feed or whatever. But Rook Hexgold Nabber.
Yes.
2 in a red for a 2/2 with Trample Haste Goblin Rebel from, pretty sure it was the All Will Be One.
Yeah, you have at least 5 tweets in the comments telling you that it is from the Jumpstart exclusive section of All Will Be One.
Everyone is also being incredibly cheeky, just like they were in that Orochi Soul Reaver tweet, and I guess that's what I deserve for just being like, the fuck is this? But yeah, so whenever an equipped creature you control other than Rook attacks with dies, you may attach all equipment attached to that creature to Rook. And I'm like, this is that's could be pretty strong effect. Also surprisingly flavorful, because apparently they released a backstory being he makes these Hexgold weapons, and if they get taken by enemies, he'll literally go into behind enemy lines to get them back.
Oh, holy shit.
That apparently he's that guy, But yeah, it's just that we are such in a crazy environment. I'm not gonna say anything about what the cards are, but there are leaks going around for Modern Horizons 3 right now, and it's we are just being constantly exposed to new cards all the time, that sometimes we're how do we interpret or the scale of what's going on? And in my case, it's focus on Bloodrick Prime, figure out everything else afterward. And then I'm the fuck is Orochi Soul Reaver? What the fuck? And then I'm holy shit, this is fucking this is sick. I don't even care about the fact that I'm taking people's stuff and making them tutus. It's it's just another redundant version of Professional Facebreaker and Grim Hireling, just with a bit of a narrower scope and an ninjutsu ability. And then Rook comes across my feet. I'm Bloodrick playable? I don't know, it's just maybe probably in Bloodrick backlog version, but other than that, it's just this is also just a really cool effect. How come I didn't know about this? Ah, right. Hyper spoiler territory, hyper preview mode engaged. Get it out of my periphery. I don't care. So, and I remember, I didn't know about Predator's Hour until well after Crimson Vow came out, and then I was hold the fuck up. What the fuck does this thing do for 2 mana? Gives Team Menace. Great start. What else happens? All upside. It's awesome. Magic's a fun game.
Magic is extremely cool. I still haven't gotten to play that Orochi Soul Reaver BT dubs. I'm pretty sure I put it in the deck almost immediately after you were posting about it, because I was also like, yo, Ninja mentioned.
Yeah, everyone's like, but what's the ninja do? Listen, Thunder Junction, who cares? It's here. It's doing the thing. We're committing crimes and taking people's stuff. That's
What's
the only
ninja doing out there? The same thing that the Cypher spell was doing out there, appealing to gamers like me specifically. They need to throw us a bone every once in a while. So thanks for doing that, Wizards. I appreciate it. Every time you print a Cypher spell, my power grows.
Speaking of Thunder Junction cards, just in general, one particular card definitely hit my feed, and I was like, now hold on a second here. So, Rakdos Joins Up is a 5-mana legendary enchantment. Why is my thing not working here? Okay, so when it enters, you reanimate a creature from your graveyard with 2 additional counters on it. So that's already great value for an enchantment.
Oh, I love a 5-mana value reanimate with upside.
But then the other part that really applied to my Sauron the Lulis Eye deck, because there's just an absurd amount of legendary creatures to non-legendary ratio. Whenever a legendary creature you control dies, Rakdos Joins Up deals damage equal to that creature's power to target opponent.
Holy shit.
And this is the sack outlet deck with all the fun stuff, and I put that Akul, the Unrepentant, in there too. And it's just like, we are going to do many unspeakable things with this deck if, the cards fall how they may. But having an extra reanimator effect with just, again, major upside in this specific build. I need to... I haven't played the deck in a while because I've been in the Fallout craze, but yeah, this deck do be zooming with the stuff.
Yeah, that sounds sick as fuck. That's, what's that one guy? Stalking Vengeance, basically, on an enchantment, so it's harder to remove. Love to see it.
It's, yeah, like, being able to deal damage directly to your opponents in some situations is just, like, pretty dang impactful. Mm-hmm. I got 2 more stories, but we'll go with the one here. So back to the Calamity deck. I did actually make a Calamity deck because of Prophet of Ares. He was been showing us screenshots of him playing Calamity on Arena, and that was pretty much one of the big... I was like, fine, I guess I'll re-download Arena. That'll take like 5 or 6 gigs or plus or whatever. And I saw all the stuff he's doing. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty fucking sick.
Yeah, it's fun, dude.
So I only got a couple games the other weekend. Didn't do so hot because I think I was still just kind of working with whatever I had, and it was just not quite right. But there were some cards that I had put in there, like Red Elemental Blast, that just came in super clutch in moments where someone was like, what if I take 2 extra turns? And I said...
Have a Red Blast on Arena?
Oh, sorry, this was Commander. This was like real Commander.
Okay, carry on.
I physically made a Calamity deck.
Gotcha.
And have Red Elemental Blast in it.
Okay, carry on.
Look.
So somebody's trying to cast a time stretch?
Quinn, hun. They put the 1 ring on Arena. So... sky's the limit of what they might just randomly put in there, Listen,
you're not wrong, and Key to the Archive pulls some wild spells out of nowhere, so I get it.
But anyway, so yeah, the in-person Commander games with Calamity, not too great. I did Elemental Blast someone's time stretch. That was great. Someone immediately cast that time stretch out of someone else's graveyard for way less investment. That was not so great.
Yeah, that sucks. But that's why we play Arcane Heist gamers. Do that.
But yeah, so I did eventually, I've been sitting down, going between playing Arena and being like, what do I got in my collection? And, obviously I didn't have, I don't know why, but the Fnatic and Mogus kind of stuff definitely needed to go in. It is a worse... Calamity is a worse Rionia, which is fine. I would put Calamity in the category of, Rionia and Delina in terms of, arbitrarily make token copies of whatever for, maximum degeneracy, probably just end the game on the spot if you're not careful. Like, if your opponents aren't
Yeah,
careful.
practitioner of Shadow Clone Jutsu.
Yeah. But, like, because it's a finite amount of, like, you get to make 2 clones. Okay, I know what the floor and the ceiling are. But also it's the fact that the tokens freaking die.
It's so good that they die. There's a lot of things that make you exile them, but if you sacrifice the tokens, gamers.
So the fact that you don't need as many sack outlets that you would normally do in that type of deck was, like, a great thing. So as part of the updates, like, obviously, like, since they're going to be going anyway, like, Thud and Fling are a natural part of that. I'm putting in Death Greeter's Champion on my list.
Oh yeah, that card's good. It's like a backup 2/1 with double strike. And
with double strike, yeah.
Use the backup to give another thing double strike for pretty cheap.
So, but, give Calamity double strike until end of turn on the attack. Seems pretty good.
Sick, yeah.
The list has Frontier Warmonger, so my stuff has Menace. Has a Defiler of Instinct. So
that card's good.
Don't sleep on it. Obviously you gotta have a Terror of the Peaks, because otherwise what are you doing?
I mean, you don't have to, but it is a strong card, and if you like that, then play it, especially because having more than one of those is extremely not what you're supposed to do in the singleton format, which means you're probably supposed to try and do it.
Yeah. And then on the top end, Stalking Vengeance, obviously.
My beloved.
Vicious Shadows.
My beloved, yes, I fucking love that card.
Warstorm Surge.
Of course.
Inferno Titan, obviously.
Love him.
Rage Thrower. Whenever a creature you control dies, Rage Thrower deals 2 damage to target opponent. Which is kind of on the weaker side for, like, obviously, like, a 6 mana uncommon from Innistrad. But
we only have so many aristocrats in mono red, so we'll take what we can get.
Red Dragon, when it enters the battlefield, each opponent is dealt 4 damage.
Oh, that's a great target to copy with Calamity, hell yeah.
And Trumpeting Carnosaur, when it enters the battlefield, you discover 5.
I'm hearing free spells are good. Is anyone looking into this?
Yeah, I feel like you and I are pretty big partakers of free spells. Some people more than others. I'm not saying any particular names, but
I kind of limit it to certain decks. Like my Tartarus deck is my Cascade deck, and I don't use a lot of those effects outside of that.
But yeah, so I feel as if there's a lot of really cool things that you can add to Calamity that kind of, like, if you're looking for a still strong but a finite kind of ceiling, Calamity is your go-to.
If you want to do Shadow Clone Jutsu and your friends are tired of Rionia, then you can try Calamity and see what happens. I personally love Rionia and would never tire of her, so if Faded out there is listening, salute to you.
Faded listening, that'd be pretty sweet. One last thing before I'm done. Well, actually, a couple things before this. I'm putting in Rodeo Pyromancers.
Is that Sisei's ring, basically?
Yeah. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, you add double red.
I think that card's strong.
Yeah. The other thing, too, of course, is that if you're just going straight to combat and you have the red... Like, first of all, there are 4 mana 3/4. Great stats. Love that. You have them saddle Calamity. You make 2 of them. Maybe they live, maybe they don't, but let's say they live, and then you've cast your first spell of the turn, and you get 6 mana. Seems
that's cool.
Pretty good. So yeah, the other part of the deck is the early game stuff. Is like Generator Servant, Marauding Raptor, Raging Battle Mouse, Reckless Barbarian, Riveteer's Requisitioner. When it dies, you make treasure. Catalyst Elemental, and stuff like that. So I can have these things enter. Maybe they get in, maybe they don't. And then on the second main phase, sack them for their mana cost or value or whatever. Yeah, it's a neat little deck that I'm going to be fiddling with for a bit, because it just seems like hey, it's mono red, and then Harrogast,
Are you on that 3-mana 3/1 dragon patron of the arts, I think?
I did have it on the list. It's been kind of hard trying to get like the curve right when it comes to the 3-drop slot.
Gotcha. There's a lot of
like-
really cool 3-drops, so I get it.
Like, you know, I had that foil Chaos Warp from the Fallout pack, so I had to put it in there.
Yeah.
We got Cursed Mirror.
I love that card. You definitely got to run it, because somebody's always playing something better than
Yeah.
what you've got.
So, like, Plundering Barbarian, Wheel of Misfortune, Will's Reversal, Pilgrim's Eye, Hissing Iguanar, you know,
Love
maybe. Goblin Chain Whirler, Hazardous Monument, Heraldic Banner, naming red, Flame Skull. It is a 2 red and 1 for a skeleton. That's a 3/1 with flying, and it can't block. And it has the flavor keyword Rejuvenation. If it dies, exile it. If you do, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play one of those cards. In this case, the token copies go into exile and go whoop, and then you get the other card, whatever that may be.
Okay.
So it's a good way to kind of just keep card advantage going in some way.
I thought that card was like extremely mid, but I guess when you have 3 of them, it changes the math quite a bit, doesn't it?
A little bit. So, you know, I'm trying to keep a balance of mid cards and some sick cards in that deck, and the mid will help get to the good shit. But yeah. One last thing that I thought was super hilarious when you're on 1v1 Magic is so interesting to me coming back into it whenever I'm doing Brawl. Like, Brawl is like, okay, it's Commander Light, whatever. But when you're staring against someone who's comboing out on Arena, and I imagine it's probably very similar on MTGO, where there's probably going to be a point that the app just collapses on itself and crashes, or you're getting like a time violation for like resolutions of effects or something. So I was playing against the blue-green Arwen that was comboing out with Herd Baloth of whenever you put a +1 counter on something, you make a 4/4 Baloth, and then Season of Growth, which whenever a creature comes to play, you scry 1, and then Arwen says whenever you scry 1, you put +1 counter on something. So they were sitting there making many Baloth tokens, and I was sitting there like, and they kept doing it, and this went on for about 5 minutes, maybe more. And the entire time I just tapped on my Quintorius icon in the corner, and I said, nice! And they kept doing it for a bit, and then I think they realized that either, since I was not leaving for over 5 minutes, that maybe they should be concerned. And then, sure enough, they eventually kind of lock the fight, they're like, all right, we will not put +1 counters, I guess, on the Herd Baloth, and we'll put it somewhere else so we can have a deterministic loop. To which then I said, cool story, here's Hazardous Blast. Your opponent's creatures are dealt 1 damage, they can't block this turn, and then swing for the win.
Just like nice larges. They can't block. Answer
Die.
my threats.
Yeah, so we were both pretty low, like each of us had his rights. It was like, you're playing Simic bullshit. Die.
You got him.
Good stuff. That is my second to last game mentioned. What do you have going on?
I played an incredible game with Cecily and Sophina, my Sapphic Blue Farm Pirates deck. We cast a Forerunner of the Coalition earlier in the game and used that to find Ruin Raider, who's the pirate raider Bob. You get it.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, so we set ourselves up for success drawing an extra card each turn. Shout out to Raider Bob, who found us key pirates like Lightning Rig Crew and Direfleet Neckbreaker to buff our opponent, or burn our opponents on cast and buff our attacking pirates, respectively. That's what the Lightning Rig Crew and the Direfleet Neckbreaker does. And we had an Angrath, the Captain of Chaos, who gave us a few turns of menace before attackers were like, okay, Planeswalker on the board. There needs to not be a Planeswalker on the board. We're going to send creatures at him. So he basically saved us like 5 life by getting hit and providing us with menace. So we'll take that investment all day. Late game, we located the Angrath's Marauders.
Oh, hell yeah.
Played that guy, got a big swing of damage in, and that felt really good. Of course, this resulted in my board state getting fucking picked apart. We were playing against just a really cool Kothafed Soul Hoarder mono black control deck. And like they were big chillin' and playing a Sangromancer and trying to hide behind that. And I'm just like throwing stuff at them. And they have to be like extremely surgical with the things that they remove because there's only so many cards that they have in their deck that they can do that with. So they're like, okay, I'm going to kill this one in particular. And then when that thing dies, I'll lose a life and draw a card with Kothafed. So they're like card neutral on their removal. And we're just like trying to figure out how to get in there and reduce their life total and also not trigger Sangromancer and that delicate balance of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting like late game and my Pirate Raider Bob is getting blown up and I don't have a whole lot of life to pay to it anyway. But so I play a Protean Raider and my rules text permits me to block warriors, so instead of doing the safe and expected play of copying my Angrath's Marauders, no gamers, I copied that Kothafed the Soul Hoarder.
Yeah, you do.
That drew us some cards to keep us in the game. Unfortunately, if you would taste the wisdom of the Oni, you have to be prepared to salt it with your blood, and I did just that, eventually dying to Kothafed triggers in the end step on somebody else's turn. They did the Ortheon Hero of Lavabrink, like, ultimate ability to make, like, a bunch of
tokens, yeah.
And they get sacrificed instead of exiled, so I'm, like, sitting at 6 thinking I'm fine, and then they're like, Ortheon ability. We'll make a lot of this one guy. We'll go to combat. We'll send them at those people. We'll sacrifice them in the end step. And I'm just like, great. Lose 6 life, draw 6 cards.
Yeah.
And it fucking killed me. But damn, that card is always such a wild ride every time I play it. It's so good.
You gotta love... See, that's the thing... Over the years that I thought like black cards were actually super bad because you lost life. And that I think that's probably like a usually common perspective, like if you're a new player.
Yeah, new players do have a bit to get over that, like a realization of life is a thing that you can spend as well as like keeps you in the game.
Time walking your opponents by gaining life seems really appealing when you're starting out. It's just you don't know that you're time walking your opponents.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kothaped, once again, proven that demonic pact with Liliana chops.
It's still good, gamers. Still play Kothafed. Sure, there are cards that exist that kill you instantly if they appear, but that's part of the deal, baby.
Yeah. Gotta, like... Oh, the cult of mono red. Yeah, okay, Lenny, calm down here. We gotta talk about mono black for a second of what you gotta do to win that game.
That is just as cult-like, and you gotta have some fucking guts.
And let us combine the hands of red and black and do other dumb shit with these color combinations.
Oh, man, I love red and black mana.
So good. So fun.
So good.
Do we just want to go into the Lenny story that you put at the end
speaking of red mana,
yes.
So I'm playing Yezri Fortune's Flame. I've got him suited up with a Hand of Vecna, a Nettle Cyst, a Hammer of Nazan.
Oh, so he big.
Yeah, so he's like a real big and like a real scary. And I had just bonked the player before Lenny in turn order. So I'm just like very transparently like, yeah, Lenny, you're next in line. So Lenny goes to his turn. He's taking his game actions. He's getting in for combat. He's passing the turn with a little bit of mana up. And the gamer after him is like, all right, well, they're on a Nimpa call and they can't just like not take game actions or whatever. And I've made my intentions clear that I'm going to bonk Lenny next. So they're like, all right, well, I don't need to kill you, so I'll swing somewhere else. They send a bunch of stuff at Lenny to try and reduce that life total some. And Lenny hits the fucking Teferi's protection to just like dip on out of there, dodge that combat, dodge my impending combat, and I took that personally. So we get to my turn, and I'm doing a bunch of fucking mental math thinking, man, I still really want to bonk Lenny for a lot. And what are the odds that if I do this, that this attack trigger will draw me enough cards that I find the Bone Crusher Giant off the top, like 5 cards of my library, potentially.
Format All-Star Bone Crusher Giant.
Yeah, for those of us who didn't grow up in Eldraine, having all of your 2-end blows dying to stomp, that's the instant half of the like adventure card, Bone Crusher Giant and Stomp. So you cast to Stomp and it deals 2 damage to any target, and it says damage can't be prevented this turn. So I'm bleeding in the fucking heart of the cards. I declare my large as an attacker at Lenny, hoping to do enough damage to kill him through this Teferi's protection. And I flip my 5 coins, by which I mean roll 5d6, and I get 3 evens, and I take 4 damage from the 2 times that I didn't draw cards, and I find the Bone Crusher Giant, and so I cast that Stomp.
Sometimes the math just works out.
Sometimes it just works out. So I cast that Stomp, targeting Yusri actually, because we wanted to make sure that we got the damage in somewhere.
Yeah.
Yusri's indestructible, so it's like it doesn't matter. So we swing that, we turn off damage prevention, we mark a bunch of commander damage on Lenny. Unfortunately, it doesn't kill him because we didn't quite get the numbers high enough, but the fact that he felt so safe behind that Teferi's protection, and I'm like, I believe in the heart of the cards. What if I just punched you instead? And it worked? Fuck yeah.
So I guess I should just start playing more Bone Crusher Giant.
I'm always saying this. If you want to win through combat or burn, you have to be able to turn off fogs or damage prevention or life gain, and preferably all of them together. So Bone Crusher Giant goes a long way towards that. Turn off that damage prevention.
That's awesome. I'm so happy this made the docket.
It was a good fucking moment.
Sometimes you just need the thing to deal with that hyper-specific thing, and, like, I have played into too many Teferi's protections to be like, maybe I start just packing stuff like this, because, yeah, this is just...
I was literally like, maybe I draw into the Bone Crusher Giant. Other people at the table, why are you running that? Me immediately after, because I fucking hate fogs.
Yeah. I picked up a Galadriel's Dismissal recently. Mm-hmm. And I have not put it in a deck yet, but I'm probably putting it in Odric Prime. Because that is a spell that is not... still kind of in that quotient of like, oh, dang, Teferi's Protection is kind of fucked up. But doing an instant speed kick Galadriel's Dismissal on someone's, like, definitely lethal coming at you to your face board and just phasing them out. Or someone casts a board wipe and you phase your stuff out. It's just such a cool spell.
Yeah, the card reads strong as fuck. I had it in my Jeskai TARDIS deck for a while and then got tired of cascading into it.
Yep. Yeah.
We cut it there and we'll find another spot for it. I'm realizing I don't play a whole lot of white mana, so finding a spot for that has been a little difficult.
Well, look, it's the fact that you've made a bunch of Grixis decks, and then you made your Felix 5 boots, and you're like, lol lamau, it's still Dimir. And then you did make that one Ishin deck, and that Galadriel's Dismissal can go in that deck.
It can go in that deck.
But
I just don't know if that deck is going to see paper.
yeah, fair enough. That's a shame. I'm still happy to hear about Ishin and Obosh. That's such a neat combination.
Yeah, it is a really cool concept, and I do like to play it. I just, yeah, I don't know.
But
if we're
not,
gonna go to
but
the
not
effort of picking
enough.
it. Yeah, basically.
All right. I got one thing left to end this episode. And it was a good old pre-con game.
Oh, yeah.
I managed to sign up for a game with Grem Corp as the host. If anyone doesn't know Grem, aka Boss, always making a bunch of gremlins on Twitter of everyone and everything. And it's pretty awesome. But the reason that this particular pod was coming together was because good old LevDev was getting a few preview cards for Fallout. And LevDev needed some help. So he's like, hey, we need someone to voice Oko in there. And Crow of Children of Lara was like, hold on, I know a guy. And he reached out to me. So I voiced Oko transforming a ghoul into a red stag for the Watchful Red Stag card.
Extremely funny.
So we all got together for a group, and we were all playing the precons. I was playing Caesar. Crow was playing the science deck. LevDev was playing the Dogmeat precon that I can never remember the title of. And then Grem was playing the mutants with Mothman.
I think it's like Scrappy Survivors or something like that.
Yeah, which makes sense because Scrap and Human Survivors. So it was a really grindy game. And outside of like me and LevDev had played the precons before, but Grem and Crow definitely have not. And so everyone was trying to get familiar with all the cards. There was obviously even for me, there were a few times I'm like, the fuck is that? That is not. And it was funny because we were joking about like, oh man, I can't wait to see these new cards. And then Grem was like, so besides the Mothman, it was literally like Branching Evolution and what's the fungus 4 mana in
Corpse Jack Menace.
Corpse Jack Menace and stuff
You're
like
just
that.
like seeing reprints.
I'm like, there's reprints, but then you're staring down like a giant Mothman plus whatever the board state is. It was like, this is kind of fucked up. But Caesar had a plan, and it involved board wipes and spot removal.
Yeah, that's a control deck that always rebuilds better.
So I was just able to stay out of line of sight or let people do the work for me before taking them out. Lev managed to build like this large gunner recruit and pointed it at Grem, and I was like, great. So after combat, I gotta cast Vats, just taking it out of existence, because I cannot allow that to continue, because it's going to come my way at some point. Unfortunately, I really wanted to see if I could get Vats to go off on a bunch of stuff, but unfortunately, everyone's power and toughnesses was going all over the place, and I'm like, all right, this ain't going to work.
Sometimes you gotta just rip that.
Yeah. Grem put so much radiation on everyone that they were under constant threat of dying to it, which was incredibly funny. And it's always funny to see radiation come into games of Magic and seeing how everyone interacts with it. So people are like, oh yeah, I know myself, that's great. And other people are like, I am dying, please stop. And yeah, I didn't really get to any of the big haymakers that game. Like, normally you think, oh, assemble the Legion. Okay, I take that back. Sorry, that's not true. Because I had the combination of... where is he? So, Elder Arthur Maxon, which is a 4/2, 1 white and black human knight. Creature tokens you control have training. And then... the flavor ability Blind Betrayal, where you sacrifice another creature so it gains indestructible until end of turn. Well, He, by himself, pretty good. You get a couple tokens going. He can keep him in play and just keep swinging out. You get like a Pitiless Plunderer or a Morbid Opportunist out, and you start making some treasures and drawing some cards. And then you get out the super sick enchantment called Battle of Hoover Dam.
Fuck yes, I love this card so much.
And when it enters, you choose NCR or Legion as a 4-mana white enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, you can return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. And then the Legion mode is whenever a creature you control dies, you put 2+1 counters on target creature you control. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm playing the Legion, I'm repping the Legion, so I obviously got to choose Legion, and holy fucking shit. When you have a 18/16 Elder Maxon swinging out at people, it doesn't matter if you don't have trample or not. It's not dying. But yeah, the way I ended up finishing that game off was casting an Hour of Reckoning and making Maxon indestructible to swing out for lethal. Those precons are all really good. And it's just been super fun to see how really well built this Caesar deck is.
Yeah, I really liked that one. The game plan truly is appealing to what I want to be doing in the game.
I was hoping to see or get out Fervent Charge, but despite the random increments of just stupid amounts of card draw that I was having, it was literally like lands, more lands, the Gary clone, which was hilarious to play, and then just like a bunch of more lands. And I'm like, well, can I please have something to invest in? And then my deck said, no problem. Here's Elder Maxon and a board wipe. And I'm like, you know what? We'll take it.
Sounds good.
I nearly got to cast Anguish Unmaking targeting James' Wandering Dad. Because it has the artwork of James, or Liam Neeson in this case, on it. So it would have been a flavor win. But sadly,
I didn't realize those two were linked like that. That's funny.
Yep, I will say that a lot of the artwork on these cards for anything that isn't like main characters. If you don't know the main characters is one thing, but when you start seeing depictions of certain things happening on the artwork, it's the Leo pointing at the screen thing, pointing and snapping, and it's just like me, in this case, I'm just like, I was so close. Why would I have done an Anguish Unmaking on a James Wandering Dad for any other reason but it being a flavorful thing?
I totally get that, though. I got to use, this is a completely different property, but that's what we're here for. Doctor Who mentioned real quick, the 12th Doctor, I got to escape him from the graveyard using the confession dial, and I was just like pointing at the screen because that's exactly how it goes in the show.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. See, you know what? I always be like, no, don't mention Doctor Who, no. And then you're like, yeah, it's this thing that happened in the show. And people always talk about Rory and I can't remember the companion's name. Amy, yeah. But yeah, so it's like, there's something for everyone in these universes beyond things. And
it's cool
for me, it's just being like,
to point at the screen in recognition.
Hey, look, it's that Magic the Gathering character. That joke's gonna run old pretty quick.
Yeah, I do that with fucking Warhammer these days. I saw somebody painting a Be'lakor model the other day and was just like,
yeah?
Yo, that's Be'lakor the Dark Master, a 6/6 with Flample. I think he's like a 6/5 or something, but still.
Still, large for 6.
Yeah, love him.
All right. Oh, jeez. I'm exhausted. It's only an hour and 40 minutes in. Oh, jeez.
Only an hour and 40 minutes in. All right, let's get out of here.
As previously mentioned, we are now available on YouTube for your casual perusal or sharing with people who do not have Spotify or other things. It's on YouTube under Heroes Blade Vibe Check. It's pretty neat. You can find me at Uncommon CMDRMTG on Twitter. You can find Quinn at Girldick Energy. on Twitter. The Hub, HBVC_MTG on Twitter, and I don't know, I guess we're on Blue Hub and kind of also on Tumblr, but I also know that those two websites kind of suck. Just like Twitter.
Listen, the internet is bad these days, but we're all here together clicking in for our shifts at the Bad Posts Factory.
We are grasping hands, going to Avernus descending into the crab bucket or whatever. I don't know.
Exactly, Avernus descended.
All right. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Later, gamers.